Well, sometimes it might seem like the private companies are pitting themselves against the federal government. Probably a lot in this town, maybe. Just this week, the Washington Post released a study that described government employees as overpaid and underworked compared to the private sector. So is there anything that the agencies can learn from big companies? Here to share some of her insight into this is Lea Strickland. She's a business startup and growth expert and president of Focus Resources. Thanks for being with us here this evening.
My pleasure.
So we'll start at the beginning here. What can government agencies learn from the private sector?
The private sector is profit-driven, it's objective-driven, it's priority-driven. So with a lot of our government funding and research that's coming in, that's not always the highest priority. So when we look at commercialization of inventions and technology that the government has funded, we need to get those out into the economy, out into businesses in order to create jobs and do economic stimulus.
Do you feel, as we said, that there's sort of a divide between the public sector and what the government is doing, and nobody wants to look at what the other one is doing right or what the other one is doing wrong, or perhaps they're a little overcritical of the other?
I think so. Part of the problem is that for whatever reason, we've sort of demonized having a profit motive, being out there in the private sector and taking those public-funded inventions, research, technology, and saying, well, we did it with public funding for public good. Now we want to put it in the private sector and take those inventions, and where's the payoff back to the government?
You know, and I know a topic that keeps sort of coming up again and again is, and you mentioned it, is technology. How does that issue of technology and how it's implemented and how it's used, what are some of the biggest differences in what the government's doing over here and what the private sector is doing over here? Or is there a big difference?
There are a lot of parallels, and we should actually, I think, be on an intersecting path. It's neither all good nor all bad, and we're all actually on the same team. So when we're talking about programs, say like small business innovation research programs that are government funded or targeted to small business, getting that funding into those companies early, but making sure they have a proper commercialization plan is critical. What we're trying to do is get the job creators to have the technology, to have the innovations and inventions that can drive the economy and encourage job hiring. More taxes into the system to fund more research, to fund more public projects. And even on the nonprofit sector, let's say universities, research institutions, they need to be coming together to realize that the private sector has the understanding of how we connect with the markets, with the public, the person that's going to buy it. So the government funding technology and invention that sits on the shelf is not sufficient to accomplish the objectives. I don't have innovation without commercialization.
Do you think more people are sort of thinking along the lines of the way you're thinking right now? Are there other people with these same kind of thoughts and ideas out there?
Yeah, there's a whole community out there around the small businesses, the entrepreneurs, and even the larger companies realizing that they're not necessarily equipped for innovation. They're equipped to be production engines. Once the product is out there, they're good at delivering it, disseminating it, getting it into the channels. Innovation tends to lie with our entrepreneurs, our innovative companies, our new business models, and we only have to look at Apple, Google, and all those and the new technologies they bring in. They're uniquely structured to do that.
All right, Lea Strickland, thank you for coming in this evening. We certainly appreciate it, and as I said, certainly an issue worth mentioning in this town.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.